Hey there, welcome to another Lemon Amiga Playguide and review. This time it's Robin Hood Conquest of the Longbow, designed by Christy Marks and developed and published by Sierra Online in 1991. At the start of the game we can either load up a save or we can view the introduction. On the introduction it gives us a great rendition of the title theme, which will run through this game. Christy Marks started off with Conquests of Camelot for Sierra in 1990 and is still working in the business today. As the game begins, we get a troubadour who explains that the year is 1193 and Richard the Lionheart was captured just before Christmas in December 1192. So this would put this directly after that capture, and this explains that during the Third Crusade, Richard the Lionheart, after he returned, got shipwrecked on the coast of Italy, and as he made his way up past Austria, having snubbed the Austrian guy during the battles because he had scurvy and his head wasn't up for the battle, he told him to go away or didn't include him and he snubbed him. So what Leopold of Austria did, of course, was capture him and put him into the deepest, darkest dungeon of his castle. Mighty King Richard wasn't very best pleased with this, and you can see him lying on the floor roaring, with a roaring Lionheart, roar, roar, as if he's being held by these enemies. And so he was dragged in front of the king, and the king pointed his finger at him and said, right, for that I'm going to have you locked away and we're going to have a massive ransom, and so you are not getting out of here until the Kingdom of England gives me $1 billion. And so you'll just have to face poverty and life in jail and facing lions and starvation until I get my way, and until then, unfortunately, your brother John is going to take over the kingdom and he's going to make a right mess of it. So until I get my ransom, that's it. I have no fear, King Richard said. My people love me and the ransom will be paid eventually. I absolutely guarantee it, but it might take some months to accomplish that. And in fact it did take quite a while because they couldn't get the ransom money together, and it did take some time. And during this time of upheaval in the country, a band of warriors, or basically country bumpkins, got together in Sherwood Forest apparently, and they were known as the guys of Sherwood Forest, otherwise known as Robin Hood. And these guys dressed up in Lincoln green. And the old story is that actually the guys were actually Welsh invaders and Welsh saboteurs who invaded King Henry II, and that story eventually got transferred to King Richard the Lionheart and then later to King John. But whenever it happened, this band of warriors got together and they said, we've had enough of this, we're going to go out and we're going to take our revenge on the evil Sheriff of Nottingham and Guy of Gisborne. So that included all the characters that you can see now: Much the Miller's Son and Alan Liddale and Will Scarlet, of course, who is not Scarlet in this game, Friar Tuck, who was the main cook and the know-it-all, and of course you get Robin Hood as well, unshaven, because not that many men use razors in this particular period. So we start off, this is using a fast CPU, and I definitely recommend an all-30 for this, and we're moving through the first 5 days of this adventure. On the side of the wall we managed to find the horn of a cow, that is a blowing horn. We'll definitely need to use that in order to attract our followers later on. And the second thing that we really need to do is to check out our bank, because on the table is a purse and that contains the coins that we need to get through the entire game, and we'll get some more coins and we'll have to trade those coins, importantly with as many peasants as possible, because of course Robin Hood always gives to the poor and robs from the rich, so definitely robbing riches and feeding poor in this game. And when we emerge from our cave we see that our friends and followers will give us a backstory and a few in-jokes as well, so sometimes it's reading those to the end will give us some humour, and in this game I've actually speeded up the text. So if you want to see that and if you want to read that, simply mute me and read it at your own leisure. But eventually all those guys will clear off, which means we get control back, and from here we get control of the options menu. We can change the level of arcade mode, where we have to fire our bow and arrow, or whether we can talk our way out of it. This is Conquests of the Longbow Amiga version 1. And you can also see the makers of this game and a few in-jokes as well. Nobody from Andromeda took part in the making of this game. That's apparently an in-joke to Space Quest, which was another Sierra game. So you can read all those at your heart's desire, but for now those are the credits, and we can also quit back to main menu or play the game from here. So there are precious few things we can do on day 1, and by clicking over here into the glade we can fire our bow and arrow and practice that. And this game is a little bit crazy in that it gives us some extra animations every now and again. You can see a pixie running along, and those appear at random as an Easter egg, and there are tons of Easter eggs in this game, not as many though as the PC version. Will Scarlet is our guide on this mission, and we can also see a villager as well, and we can question these guys simply by clicking on them, and it's important to question everybody, and eventually we'll get some score for doing that as well. His name is Simon, and he's one of the villagers, and he says that he wants to be an outlaw and he's basically starving. What can we do about that? Well, before he leaves and before we leave this spot, we'll have to remember to give him some money, and that will give us some score in the game. And of course revealing the backstory is important because that could help us later on. So a couple of men are willing to join us. What do you say? Do you want to join us or do you want to stay where you are? I will, sir. I will truly join you. Right, fine. So now we can use this very ramshackle bow and arrow guiding technique to fire, and I think I'm using the WHD load at the moment, which I could not get to repeat a second arrow. So having fired on the target a little bit low down, but according to that it's bang on the money, we then get a second try, and maybe if you put this in arcade mode we can actually fire at the enemy doing that. But I don't know how to reload the bow, and I can't find the key press in the manual, and I tried pressing every key and every combination of the mouse controller to try to load a second arrow. I couldn't manage that, so in the end I had to give up on this and walk away from it. But there are arcade modes and sections in this game, so it is a kind of an arcade game, even though 95% of it is a point and click adventure. So I'll do, sir. I'll sort that out for you, no problem. So eventually, amongst all these cutscenes, it will give us the ability to check out the menu. From the menu at the top we can check out the map, we can check out our pockets as well. We've got the blowing horn, we can check out that is a cow's horn, it's in need of repair. I have 5 pennies, 19 halfpennies and 26 farthings in my purse, whatever that actually means. And now by clicking on the icons, I can now click on the purse and click on the arrow, and then it gives us a pound sign. And by clicking the pound sign on the guy that we want to give money to, and we can toggle that I think with the right mouse button, then we can give him some money. So let's give him a few. Let's give him some money, and alright, I don't deserve it, but I'm going to take it anyway. I'm sure you will take it anyway, and however much you give him, it doesn't matter. We've now got 10 extra score to the 100 that we had before, and I think it gives you 100 score if you're able to pick up the horn and the cash in the first place. So we're on day 1, we've shot an arrow, and we've recruited one more guy into our army. Let's check out the map. And from here, this is a quick shortcut to Nottinghamshire, and from here we can go to various places on the map. I'm using a PPC at the moment, which means, well, I'm actually speeding up this footage, but it should mean that this pretty slow game should move full speed. And I think I'm actually playing this also in NTSC mode, which should be the minimum requirement given the fact that this is an NTSC game. As old Sierra games were all NTSC and none of them got a PAL conversion. So if you are listening to this and it plays the music slowly and it wanders around slowly and puts all these messages on slowly, it's because it needs NTSC. So hopefully we're playing that, but I can't see a board around it, so I can't guarantee it. But what we do know is we're definitely playing this with a nice fast CPU. And on the PC version it gives us an Easter egg of the Loch Ness Monster here. If we wait around on this spot, the Loch Ness Monster will appear. And it's a pity that none of the graphical enhancements from the PC version are here, but what we do get is a faithful port of the 256 colour PC version, and I think this was released in CJEJ in 256, so at least we get a port of that, ported down to maybe 32 or maybe even 64 colours probably on this version, although I very much doubt that they used ham mode to take it up any higher than that. Checking out the village, we'll also find the village wife here and our 3 sons, and we can interview those 3 sons. Of course we want them to join our band of merry men. So there's one called Dickin, and Dickin needs to be wiser according to his mum. There's one called Hal who is worrying out something. Fear not, Dickin, fear not, Hal, I shall save the day. And so whilst we're here, it's a good idea to interview everybody and take our time to get to know the backstory. We can even interview the sheep. And the ewe says, it's about time somebody talked to me. First off, this business with the wool, I mean, you know, I'm ripping my hair out considering the business properties that I'm missing out on with this conglomerate scheme. So forget about me. Why don't somebody, you know, ask me about business sometime? Well, I'm not asking him about the trade prices of wool at the moment. And we can interview every single animal in the game. That's yet another Easter egg. So from here we can check out the camp. This means that we can zip straight back to the camp whenever we like. There's nobody here except Fry Tuck, who's cooking up the main meal of the afternoon, and he's roasting that on an open fire and preserving all of those vegetables. So on day 1, again, you are wandering around blindly, but the aim of day 1 is to get used to the map. And there will be a long road which runs all the way through Nottingham. Of course, that's a Roman road, because that's still all they had. It's in rack and ruin, as you can see by now. But that's maybe Deer Street running all the way down through Nottingham. And the Roman road, we'll have to make use of that, and we'll have to find the quickest way to get to the Roman road, because one of the ways that we can interact with this game is through a vantage point that we can find on the road at a certain point. Here it is, it's a hill. From here we can see the passers coming by and going away, and we can interview those and stop those at our leisure. So it's paramount to find the hill on day 1, so that appears as a shortcut on our map. And we're interviewing this guy, and he's saying, well, stay guard here and watch if there's any passers-by, and if there's any dodgy characters we can walk down to greet them. And this game happens in semi-real time. As long as we hang around for long enough on a screen, if something is meant to happen, then it will do. And sometimes if we walk off, well, it's Watling Street actually, sometimes if we walk off that street and back on it again, that will trigger. And look at that, we've found a damsel in distress. Stand fast. Move aside. Peasant woman, nay, please help me. Release the woman, she is my prisoner. Well, get your hands off her then. What can we do? Well, at this point we can use our inventory and we can pull out our bow and arrow, or we can just shoot him basically using the bow and arrow symbol. We can call for our mates and they will surround the guy, and that's sometimes helpful if you want to negotiate your way out of trouble, but I've found this particular scenario all you have to do is pull your bow out and shoot him dead. So you don't have to worry about any of this. You can interview your fellow compadres and they will help us out. What shall we do in this situation? Oh, well, I'm not sure. Maybe you should just shoot his head off. Yeah, that's a damn good idea. I'm going to do that because I'm Robin Hood and I'm good at shooting stuff. So having agreed on that way forward, then all we need to do now is hopefully for me to pull the bow out by toggling that, and by aiming that we can shoot him. Peasant woman, bless you sir, bless you immediately, thank you, thank you. And now we can call back our fearless warriors again who've done absolutely nothing to help the maiden get out of trouble, and now we can drag him all the way back. What shall we do with this worthless carrion? I say we strip him, hang him upside down, take away all his cash, and make sure that he never walks again. What can we do with this woman? Well, if we are very quick, and I'm not very quick, I should have shot her, but anyway, if we are very quick we can hand her some money, and that will mean that we get more score in the game. And each night, this is the end of day one, we failed to give her the money in time because I almost shot her. But if we can, then we can get the maximum score in the game, but unfortunately we forgot to do that and we didn't do that, which means we can no longer get the maximum score. Every night you'll camp by the fire and recount stories of what's going on, and maybe we'll find out what is going on, because the Sheriff of Nottingham is a tyrant and we'll have to find his weaknesses if we want to break into that castle and take him down. The first day is pretty easy as long as we find the vantage point and rescue the woman. That's all we really need to do, and you don't have to complete every single task in order to beat the game. We don't have to do the archery if we want to skip that, and we don't have to recruit guys either. But as long as we get through the bulk of the story, we'll be okay for now, and in later days there will definitely be sections where we'll need to get things right, otherwise we can no longer complete the game. There are 4 endings to the game. One of us sees us hanged, one of us sees us marrying Maid Marian, Marian, and the 2 in between means we don't get the girl and we don't get hanged, but we get released. So it depends on the way we play it as to how we get through the game, and you can see we've been lifted and carted off to bed, probably drunk, and cast adrift, floating in the air, rustles through the trees, and we find ourselves in a dream sequence. In the dream sequence we'll find Kate Bush singing Wuthering Heights, and it's definitely Kate Bush on the PC version, as you can definitely tell, but that's not very well drawn on the Amiga version when we get to see what she looks like. But this is definitely her, and she's singing away in the willow trees, and we get some music as well and some great animation. We found a mysterious green gem on the floor, and just like all dreams, of course, we'll imagine that and it will end up in our pocket again when we wake up the next day, which proves that it was just all a dream. So we've now got that as a token, as a symbol, and so we'll have to figure out what I'm supposed to be doing with all this, and that's our first glimpse of Maid Marian. So here we go, this is day 2 and we end up by the fire again. I don't think we can collect any more cash. We've got our bow, we've got our oxen horn, and we've got our friends again kicking around after breakfast. Top of the morning to you, whatever he says. Well, hi guys, how's it been going? Didn't sleep very well last night. I was dreaming of a beautiful woman and she gave me this emerald. And in this dream, well, it was amazing. If only I could find that location during day 2, maybe I could work out what the dream was trying to tell us. So, woman with raven hair and a dress moved like white flame. Why, well, I've had dreams like that all the time. None of them came true for me. Hush, Alan, stop jesting with me. This is serious. I've got to find this Marian woman and marry her. So that's the end of the story, and that's pretty good enough for us, Robin. You can get on with that story now, and we'll just disappear, and you can continue the story. So emeralds are Irish emeralds. I'm not sure whether you find too much of those in Britain, but that's definitely something that the Celts brought along from Ireland, and there were traders at this point in time, but we didn't get much from overseas, and local traders are pottery and livestock and basic timber and basic wall building. We didn't have brick builders, we didn't have road builders, we didn't have real architects much at this point, and things were built pretty squarely. You can see most things are still built out of wood. We're using picnic tables and wooden instruments and wooden guitars and bows and arrows, so wood in these days was the primary source of building things. Of course, the whole place was wooded in those days, not just Lincoln, but everywhere was heavily wooded, and so that was mostly chopped down much later on. At this point, as usual, the game leaves us completely on our own, and it's definitely recommended to save up the game as much as you can do, and then that saves us getting out of any kind of trouble. So I'm simply queuing up the give, because you can queue up something in reserve as a command and press that right mouse button to activate that, and you can see that we can shortcut straight to the road, and there is a tree icon there which shortcuts us straight to the glade that we saw in our dream. So let's check out the glade, let's see if there's anything lying around on the floor which might give us some clues, and for that we'll need to choose the look icon, and of course we've got the shoot icon as well. We'll definitely need to be ready to shoot things in this game, and with a fast CPU that gives us even less time to shoot things. So looking around the glade, we can't see anything at the moment, so we're going to have to wander around this area, and the game doesn't give us any indication that that's what we need to do, but we do need to do that, and after we've wandered around, move 2 screens back away from it and then wander back 2 screens towards it, that should generate the random act that we're looking for of Maid Marian. Sometimes getting that to actually trigger takes some time, and it's kind of at random, and sometimes all you can do is admire this beautiful scenery, and sometimes we get music and sometimes it's in complete silence, but at least we do get a soundtrack with this game, and there was apparently a CD version on the cards, but that apparently never got completed. So all we've done is walked in a complete circle, and here she is. Kate Bush, help me, help me. It's her, it's the woman in my dream. What can you do? Well, the only thing you can do at this point is shoot him down. If you don't, then he'll grab her off the horse, and that's it, she's dead, and that's it, she's now dead for the rest of the game, and so you can no longer complete the game, or at least no longer marry Maid Marian, and after that you go back to the camp immediately, because that's the end of day 2 over. You've failed to rescue Maid Marian from day 2, and that means that you'll lament that you've killed her, and you'll no longer be able to revive her, and that's basically, if you want to complete it the good way, that's game over. So what I'm actually doing is pulling out the bow and arrow and shooting him pretty quickly, and that should mean that she's now saved. We don't have to worry about listening to him. As soon as you can see him, shoot him dead, and that should mean you've only got maybe 4 seconds to do that. It's a time critical event. So now that we've done that, it should mean that she's alive, and she'll tell us that she's got a mystical item that she's got and that she'll drop for us, and I think that's some kind of book or a talisman that we'll need later on. And of course she'll also tell us that things are amiss in town, so we'll need to get into town. So this, maybe even a glass slipper, is mine, and if you can match up the slippers and tap those together, that means that you get to Maid on a Magic Carpet to Emerald City. She rides swiftly away. Marian, Marian, oh my Marian. That just means that I can pick up the slipper, and just like beneath the steel sky, it does have a kind of context ready mouse pointer. So that's quite good. Let's check out what we've got. It's a horn and a slipper. So at this point we could leave the guy lying on the floor, or if we call our buddies, they will help us dispatch of that body. A slipper you say, a slipper indeed. She tossed aside her slipper. That's right, that can only mean one thing: we shall be betrothed before the week is done. So we have now got to pillage the guy on the floor. Let's see what he had on him, hopefully a bit more cash, and every time we pillage somebody we'll get a bit more cash. And what else? Well, I think maybe we can even take his robe as well. So let's see what we've got. Well, we've got some more cash, and now what can we do? Well, now we can hide the body, and the rest of the day is empty indeed, because we've now rescued Maid Marian. So that means that's the end of the day done, and that means that we get a bit of story, and then we get ourselves straight back to nightfall again, and we can camp again by the fire, and that's the end of day 2. I think it's great that we always wake up in the same place every time, completely abandoned this time by everything and everybody, and we have no idea what we're supposed to be doing. But if we click on these locations, we can find out that the sons have disappeared. Robin, help me find my sons. They're gone into town and they're meddling with the affairs of the Sheriff of Nottingham. What can we do about that? I'm frightened. Maybe they're not even coming back. Well, I'm not sure whether we even give her some cash to give us even more money. We've got Nottingham there, we've got the pass. So before we can get into Nottingham, we're going to have to smuggle our way in. And that means getting or stealing or acquiring some kind of robe. And that means we're going to have to wait for a monk to come along on the road, and we can steal that robe away from him. And I'm not sure if this guy is a monk or a peasant. So it looks like it's a peasant. So what are you up to? I'm going to Nottingham. I hear it prospers there. I'm going to sell my wares, have charity for a wretched old man. Oh yeah, you want even more of my cash then, dear? Yes sir, if you'd like to hand me some money, I will no longer be a beggar, I will simply be a peasant. So after all that, come on, poor pickings for me, give me some cash. So it's pretty obvious what you're supposed to do on this particular case. And so we'll keep talking to him. Are you sure you want the cash? Can't you just give us your rags on the back, for anything? I want the clothing that you're actually wearing. I want to strip you naked in the middle of Watling Street for everybody to see. And then, you might not be a peasant anymore, but, completely naked, and the guy will complain about that for incessantly amount of time, and you don't have to read any of this. This is just the guy saying, oh, I don't really think I should be doing that. So until you bribe the guy you're not really going to get much further with this conversation. And he's still begging us. I beg you. Well, you are a beggar. I guess beggars have a right to beg. So let's give him some cash. It doesn't really matter how much I give him, but I like to give him that amount. It's the same money as I gave the other guy, and it's just enough cash to give us that score. Much obliged, sir. Much obliged. May the Lord have mercy on your soul. So, no problem. What, do you really want these old rags? Yeah, I want them. Give them to me. Do you really want them? They're old rags. They don't belong to anybody but me. They're old rags. Well, I don't care. Just give us the rags, will you, beggar? And so, now that we've got that sorted out, we can now call an audience so that we can all witness this guy stripping down to his briefs. And men, witness this act of me taking away from the beggar. So, of course, North, cheer up, my friend. Don't worry about it. Worse things happen at sea. And don't worry about it. We're still British after all. So it's only clothing. You can always find some more clothing somewhere else. So now we are dressed up as the beggar. And the beggar now has to go in his briefs all the way back to his own town, which you don't get to see in this game. It isn't absolutely obvious, and sometimes you might get different people walking down Watling Street, and that means you'll stop the wrong person. And if you find a black monk and a black friar, which I've definitely done before now, you'll get the wrong uniform, and that means that's bad news for us later on in the game. So unless you find the peasant, the beggar, or the monk with the light robes, you won't be able to get any further in the game. And definitely I've been stopped by the black monk before now. And the monk in the friary, it looks like it's just about to be built at the moment. He says, no, you're a beggar, I'm not going to see you. So let's go to the castle now in Nottingham. Let's see if we can see the king. Charity, charity for the wretched. Give me some money. Nah, I'm not giving you a penny. I'm not giving beggars anything. How? Take that. How? So what can we do now? Let's go to the cobbler's shop. The cobbler makes shoes. So we can even talk to all these animals. Meow. When are you going to feed me? When are you going to give me something? So you can talk to the animals. We're Dr. Doolittle in the game. And a tailor woman. A tailor is a seamstress. She makes clothing. So we can tell her things and a bit of a backstory, but you might notice that Nottingham is a pretty small place. There's only 4 or 5 places that we can actually visit in the whole place, even though they might be made out of a number of screens. So what does this guy want? Well, first of all, let's hand him over the slipper. After a long conversation, Eleanor of Aquitaine is supposed to be raising 10,000 gold marks to bail her son out of prison, and he's still there at the behest of Leopold of Austria. So 10,000 gold marks Eleanor has to release, and it's a good job that somebody released her out of prison. So she's now trying to get that back together. In the meantime, well, the abbot, the Prince John, is entrusting the treasure of 50,000 marks, and that's supposed to be going to the Queen, but he's probably going to take it for himself anyway. But that's going down Watling Street, so if we capture that for ourselves, we can then hand that over to the Queen personally and make sure it gets there. So that's the backstory of what we're going to do on the final day. We're going to probably rob a coach that is heading down there along the Roman road, and we're going to rob the rich. So we're robbing John to make sure it gets where it needs to go. And all that is still not enough to bail King Richard out of prison, but it's good enough for now to complete this game. So we're still going through the backstory, and it's great to see some animation as we get through it. So we've now handed over the slipper, we've infiltrated the place, so that means yet again, as soon as we leave, it means the story will march on, and that's the end of day 3. and we have found Maid Marian. We found the slipper. We've got through into Nottingham, and so I only managed to find my way through this game by looking up the long play, and of course if you're following a walkthrough it helps. But of course I ran into loads of problems that I've cut out of this guide, because as I say, if you stop the black friar by mistake, which I did, then you can no longer complete the game. You can't even get into Nottingham, I don't think. So there are dead ends in this game, definitely too many of them, and you will be wandering around blindly until you know what to do, and then you're supposed to familiarise yourself with every day, and if it doesn't work, simply reload it again from scratch. It's great to see those coat of arms on the map page, and on day 4, yet again, we're lurking around the viewpoint, looking around the lookout point, waiting to see if somebody gets us in the way, and again we're supposed to be looking for the monk's uniform, but instead we found somebody else who's been ransacked by the Normans. Hey you, what's going on? None of your affair, but he's a poacher. Oh, a poacher, eh? I suppose you want feeding and clothing, and you want some money then, I suppose. Yeah, shut up or I'll kill you. Yeah, I'll go kill him myself. I'm Robin Hood. Robin Hood, eh? Your head will fetch me a great price. Well, your head's in greater peril. All the outlaws are cowards, you know. Yeah, really? Well, we'll see about that. As soon as I get control of my character, I'm gonna shoot my bow and arrow and shoot your head off. And I think if you shoot him in the wrong place, he won't die. And that means that, well, maybe you can shoot again a second arrow, but I'm not sure whether that messes up the quest or not. I think that's happened for me, but that's a great animation of him dying by the Virgin Mary. He's now dead. So that's him out of the picture, and we've rescued another guy. Let's call up our friends and discuss what we're supposed to be doing with this guy, and hopefully we won't leave him naked on the road. But maybe we will. So the poacher says, thanks again. I'm going to tell my wife all about this. Thanks for the memories. Oh yeah, and just before you go, what about some cash? How much should I give him? Well, I'm going to give him 2 halfpennies and 2 farthings, which means that you've now got 2 1/4 pennies, or whatever that is, or 1 1/4 pennies, and that means that you should now have enough money to give me a bit more score. So that's the day saved again, but that's not the end of today, because that's just the warm-up, and as these days go further and further along, you'll find that they last longer and take longer, and you'll have to know what you're supposed to be doing. So, clicking randomly on the map, we found Marian at the glade again, and she'll hopefully tell us a bit more of that backstory. So as Kate Bush tells us about that strange phenomenon and them heavy people and, you know, King John and the warm gun and whatever it is, she'll tell us that everybody's in peril and only one man who hasn't shaven can stop them, and that's us. And so that means that we'll have to get on with it, and we'll have to figure out a plan to take down the king. And the Sheriff of Nottingham is in there. At least if we can get to the Sheriff of Nottingham, we can slow things down, and hopefully that means that they'll take the heat off this Lady Marian, who wasn't actually in the original Robin Hood stories. That's, I think, maybe from Wilfred of Ivanhoe again, and so that's a later edition, I think. I'm not quite sure. But of course the Robin Hood stories were written, and most of those in maybe the 19th century, so we don't actually know what happened, and the stories and the songs that have been made up. And I think that the song Greensleeves was at one time written about Robin Hood. Robin Hood, Robin Hood, with the Greensleeves thing, but I'm not sure about that, because the song exists, but the song which goes with it, the words don't make any sense with Robin Hood, although they could be, so I'm not quite sure about that. But what we do know is there was a folk tale going around of the Robin Hood and the Lincoln Green guys, and over centuries that's been corrupted into what we've got today. So here we go, it's day 5. Day 5, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we had to do on day 4. It's now day 5, and day 5 is the longest day, which I'm going to show you. It's the final day that I'm going to show you in this play guide, and it's certainly the hardest day that I found. And I think I had to restart this level a few times, and so we'll figure out that what we're supposed to do is rescue this woman's sons who've now got themselves captured in Nottingham. That gives us all of the clues that we need, but how do you get into Nottingham? How do you actually get in there without being arrested? Well, I've already found the answer, and it's a pity that that overlooking the road section is heavily used, and basically it's the fallback in most of the given situations in this game. And some places I haven't even found out what they do. I think there's a door in this tree that we can see, but we can't access it quite at the moment, and I think that we use that later on in the game. And here we go, it gives us a chance between the black monk and the ordinary monk, and it looks like that we've stopped the black monk by mistake. That's definitely not what we want to do, and there are definitely dead ends in this game. So this was a time of chivalry and heraldry, and this was the golden age as far as I'm concerned of that early medieval period when we get stone and wooden implements, and it's not quite up to the time where we get too much heavy armour going on, because even though this is the Iron Age, Britain hasn't really progressed much since the Romans, even at this period, even almost 500, 600, 700 years later. So what can we do? Well, we can shoot everybody who stands in our way, and hopefully that will mean that that's an easier option. And I think if we turn the arcade mode up, then we'll end up shooting more people. And we've got, unfortunately by mistake, the black robe, the black monk's robe, and let's see how we go on with that. And it actually allows us to see the king if we're wearing the black monk's robe, even though it prevents us from completing the rest of the game. So it looks like this is a cutscene that I left in there from one of my failed attempts, and it gives us this building, this room, which you might not even see ordinarily. Then you can see the sheriff is pretty in demand and demanding of us, and according to this, the prior thinks that this and that's going on, so we're spreading lies about the sheriff. And I serve Prince John, I choose to hang the outlaws, and the outlaws are going to be hanged, so get out of my sight. Tell your prior it's never been any of his business, get out. So that's a cutscene that you might only ever see if you make a mistake in the game. So let's try and check out the abbot, or whatever it is. We returned to him and we said, well, I haven't been able to get anywhere with the castle, awaiting further instructions, and we're calling him now a coward, so we're turning them against each other. None of this will help us in the game, because we can now no longer complete it, I don't think, because we can no longer continue the story wearing the black monk's robe. Now, that is in the game, and I wish there weren't so many dead ends, and at least with the Secrets of Monkey Island you can be wandering around, but there's a limited number of things that you can do, and eventually you'll use the rubber chicken and the pulley on the line and you'll get your way towards that second island, and you'll run out of options. Eventually that's the only option. In this game the only option is to hang around basically at the pass all of the time and see what turns up. That can be a long time, and yet again, if we go down too early we'll arrest the wrong person and stop the wrong person. If we go down too late, then that might happen as well. So let's check that out again. And finally we've managed to find the monk, This is the monk I think that we found in the abbey earlier on, so he's got the clothing that we need, and hopefully he should be able to be bought off rather than shot off the face of this planet. I'd say that this is one of the trickier of the Seer adventures, but just like all the King's quests and the space quests and even the police quests, it doesn't really tell us much what we have to do. We'll just have to bumble our way through it and try different things every single day, and that's why these games can last for months as we work out what we're supposed to be doing. And again, taking the wrong uniform on the road means it's game over. So I've had to rely on the long plays, and that's not what we had back in the day. What we had are helplines, and it gives us the number for the helpline in this game. So returning now back to Nottingham wearing our correct uniform this time, we can check out the pub, and if we're using this monk's outfit we can now ask the bartender, what does he say? I'd like some hospitality. And he's saying he never sends the casks back, and so ask him to bring the casks back. I think he's talking about the Sheriff of Nottingham there, and it's a bucket being lowered by things, and the innkeeper's saying, you know, everybody owes us some money. So whilst we're here, we can click on the guy and play a game, which I think we will have to do eventually, and that's one of the sub-games that you'll find in this game, and you'll have to learn how to play it. And for now, you don't have to do that at this stage, but if you want to learn how to play Nine Men's Morris, you'll have to talk to this guy. And at the moment, I'm saying I'll consider it. Are you still considering? Nay, I've decided I will play you. And this is where it gets really complicated, because I don't know the rules of Nine Men's Morris. All that we know is it's one of those ancient games that was played with counters, and it's one of those things that drafts and other Eastern games were perhaps used a long time ago, and perhaps is an ancestor of this game. And the only way I got through this section is looking at the long play on YouTube, writing down all the moves and following the moves by the book, so that the guy lost the game and I got the sacred amethyst. In this game you get an amethyst gem if you win this, and the amethyst stops you from getting drunk later on, and in real life of course amethyst stops you from doing nothing because it's just a gem. It's just a piece of crystal, quartz crystal, that happens to be purple when they call it amethyst. But in this game, if you drop the sacred crystal in the mug later on that we're going to need later on today, then that saves us getting drunk, and that means that we can get another guy drunk instead, and that means that we need it. So at this stage, again, I'm following the directions from the long play, and how anybody's supposed to play this game I've no idea. Maybe it tells you how to play it in the manual, but you can imagine that this is pretty difficult compared to most modern games, and there are no rules that you can look up or any help screens either. So this is definitely something where I pulled my hair out, and you can communicate with the rats as well on this particular screen. You won, you monk, so get your amethyst while it's hot. Here it is. Roll up, get your amethyst. Swear by the cross. Put it in his mug, you will no longer get drunk. So at least it tells you at this point what it does, and the fact that you're going to have to put it in somebody's mug later on so you can stay sober. And I wish there was a little more help in the game, but because I think the game is only 7 days long, we're only up to day 5, there definitely is a mechanic of trial and error which the game essentially thinks that you're going to be doing. And if you click on a pixel at the very top of the castle in the PC version, it will fire a cow over the battlements just like Monty Python. And unfortunately, none of those graphical bugs and graphical details and graphical things are in this version of the game. So let's see what we can do now that we're wearing the correct monk's abbot's sackcloth and ashes. Let's see how much this sackcloth gets me anywhere near the sheriff. And it looks like nobody's admitted, so that's not going to get me any nearer. So we do know that it's good for getting into St Mary's Priory, which is being built. So g'day brother, how's it going, cover? Well, I want to get in there, I want to check it out. So no problem, it allows us in. And in this section of the game we can check out the back rooms, which leads to a mysterious maze, and you can see some tremendous artwork, which again has come from the 256 colour PC version, and that looks brilliant. It moves nice and quickly on a fast CPU, but this game runs notoriously slowly if you have a triple or even a CPU that's an NTSC based CPU. Unfortunately it will still be slow, so then you'll still have to speed it up. So it's only after the old 20 Amiga came out that we got to play this anywhere near a decent speed, or you could again play the PC version. So in the long play, this is the route that you're supposed to get to find the secret garden, and I'm not going to get any use out of the secret garden in this play, but I'll just show you where it is. And then if you decide to continue the game from where I left off, this is basically it. And there's precious little that we can be doing here. This is the witch's court. It's entirely closed by stone, and in the middle of it there's supposed to be the witch's pole where witches get fried, burnt at the stake. So hopefully old women and witches will end up there, and hopefully I won't, depending on how I play this game. So that's the hidden maze that you can only get to if you walk through the chapel or the priory or whatever that is. And before we leave this place, we can also check out these pews or these beds or whatever that might be, and it will tell us that this is the monks' quarters. They get a cell, that's all they get, and that's your entire life is but a cell. And so let's click around here, and what we can find is another Easter egg, Larry and Patty. And that's a reference to Leisure Suit Larry, which I think was another Sierra game. And so in-jokes abound, the written variety at least can be found in this game. But what we really need is access to the back door. It's locked at the moment. And the laundry room, what can we find in the laundry room? Well, we can find some more of these abbots, some more sackcloth if we want to wear that, and we'll definitely need 3 uniforms if we want to bail out our friends from the jail. So that comes in handy. That's the first part of our escape kit collected. And in the back room we'll find the abbot himself, and on the large tapestry in the back that also contains a Monty Python reference, if you can click on the correct pixel for that, and it says it's only a model. Camelot, Camelot, Camelot. But unfortunately I can't find that pixel on this playthrough. Let's talk to the monk, and we have to call him Your Grace. And this is Northern England, so yes is I. So if anybody says I, that means yes. And so there's a north-south divide on people saying I. Scotland say I, and Yorkshire say I, and Northumberland say I, Cumbria say I, but as soon as you get past Derbyshire, they stop saying I, and Nottinghamshire, and they start to say yes. But maybe in those days people said I, and I think I-A-Y-E is a Celtic thing, which means yes. I'm not quite sure, but it did go back a long time, and I say I even today, so that continues. So we've managed to interview this guy, and we managed to find out that he's not bringing back his empties, so his empty barrels, so that gives us a bit of a clue, and he wants some more. So what we're doing is we're bringing back the barrel that the guy's just given us to bring back, and he'll fill it up, but he'll say, well, you know, he's still behind with the payments of this stuff. I'm not meant to give you any of this stuff. And do you want to find a quick way back to the castle? Yeah, sure. A quick way back to the priory, in fact, is through that gate at the back. And he will tell you that because you'll get to know him. So if I just open up that gate, hopefully it will open. And I can't take off the robe here, but hopefully, since we brought back the cask, because he never brings back his casks, I'll show you the way back, the short way back. Tell the abbot I want some money. So he'll now open that door for us. And I think you can collect the barrel that's going up and down as well in the bar. Whether I have done that, I've no idea. What that will reveal is the exit to the caves. And from here we can either go up to the castle by taking, I think, the left route, or we can go to the priory by clicking on the right route. And the castle is important. Let's see which way I go. It looks like I'm sorting out the abbot first, which, well, if you get these in the wrong order, I think it can mess up the game. And definitely things have to be done by the book in this game, which means it's trial and error. So let's see if I can find the way out. And yes, here we are. So the aim of this sub-game is to get the monk drunk, and it means that we have to drink enough for him to believe us, and then we need to swallow the amethyst by putting it in our mug. And just like the Indiana Jones drinking game, or even the Monkey Island game, we're now messing with mugs in this game. And just at the right point, we'll have to swallow the amethyst. And if you swallow an amethyst in real life, you'll choke to death. And if you don't choke to death, you'll probably be suffering trying to part with that at the other end of that communion. So never swallow big chunks of quartz crystal, particularly not amethyst. So do not try this at home, kids. And he'll give us a bit of the backstory as well. He'll tell us that the prisoners are locked up, and he's not a great fan of the Sheriff of Nottingham either, and he's not particularly enjoying his lot in life. That's why he kicks around drunk all day long, and he never returns his empties. So the Queen still needs that 50,000 marks, and we're talking about the ransom, I think, that we get on the final day. And it's good that he's given us a bit of this backstory, but it's pretty obvious what we have to do there at this stage. Get enough people together and stop him. So here's the amethyst. Let's click on that and click on our mug, and it says I already have it, I already have it. That's an exceptionally fine tapestry, your grace. Is that a flaw I see in the centre? He turns around and we put the amethyst in. What flaw? I don't see a flaw. It's only a model. So I believe you're alright, sir. My mistake, begging your pardon. And so, just like all great guys drinking beer, you eventually fall over into a drunken stupor, because, well, beer was pretty weak in those days. It was incredibly watered down, but eventually the brain will say no more and he'll fall over, and at that point we can now grab the key from him, because we still need the key to get into the quarters, the back quarters of this particular place. Not that the users will know all about that. And so we're using the tip of the amethyst. Have another grog. Go on, have another sip. Fall over backwards. That's what we need. Still going. Still going. Still, you could send for the Baron. He's left for Nottingham. Nay, nay. And he's not really making much sense. So I feel this game could have been a lot more user-friendly, but Sierra games aren't generally user-friendly, and that's why they made up perhaps just as much money on the helpline as they did selling their games, because some of those were pirated, but you couldn't necessarily pirate the helpline. So when people rang in a premium number, just like Codemasters, they really did coin it in with the helplines. So I think this game's got tremendous graphics. They did as much as they could with this game. the CD version was never finished. The voice CD version, it was started but never finished, so this is as good as we got. And I like the thematic music that changes, and I really do love these graphics. It's just a real pity that it took watching the long play to even understand how to begin this, because I just wandered around blindly at the beginning, got completely lost, and I got into a situation where I was completely stuck. In this game, or in this room, you have to remove the pillows. If you look at the pillows, you can see that they've been recently disturbed, and that should mean that that gives us what we need to get to the next part. And I didn't quite see what that was, but we've got whatever it was. That's the second part of our escape kit that we need. And so let's go all the way back to the castle at this point, and let's request to see the prisoners so that we can tell them that they're about to be broken out of prison. And if you don't do that, sometimes they don't believe who you are and they'll refuse to leave the prison. So you've got to tip them off that you're actually wearing a disguise. What we're actually doing is tipping this guy off a load of money so that he'll allow us in, and guess how much I'm going to give him? Well, probably just as much as I gave the other guys before. And my son, I cannot bear the thought that even villainous outlaws should be going around broke. So here is my compassion to you. I am deeply moved, brother. Would you like to enter the maze? Yes, I would like to enter the maze, thank you very much. And these are Norman guys, so they should be speaking French. Mais oui, monsieur. Would you like to see the prisoners in the dungeon? Mais oui, Pierre, I would like to see the prisoner in the dungeon. So hopefully we now get to that and open it up. And what do we find underneath? Well, 3 likely lads. My sons, I have come to save you. Oh yeah, who are you then? A pox on you, Unc. What are you talking about? I am a hooded man. Don't you recognize me, brothers? Salvation may be yours if you follow me. Oh yeah, wherever you're gonna lead us. Aye, God wills it. Follow me, men. And eventually they will recognise that you are Robin Hood. So having done that, we can now pay back whatever the monk owes this guy, I think, and the abbot and the prior, and you'll have to find out how much he owes, which I think might change per game. And now, having paid that off, the ransom of his beer money and his beer barrels, that opens up the next part of the game. So, not quite sure how much we need. We've given him 1 penny so far, 2 pennies. Well, we've given us, well, we've only got 1 penny, 1 halfpenny, and 2 halfpennies left. 2 farthings left, should I say. So we're virtually broke. So by this point, unless you've played the game by the book, you won't have enough money in there. Oh, and I forgot to mention that you're supposed to, when you getting the guy and searching him when he's drunk, you're also supposed to rob his purse as well, so that we have enough money to pay this back. If you don't rob his purse, then you can't use his own money to pay back the barkeeper. So that's mostly what we've done. We've used the friar's own cash against him to pay back his debts. And now for that, hopefully we'll get a bit further. We've completed the mini game. We've completed that guy's debts, and so hopefully this barkeeper will allow us now to get through back again to the back of the castle. To get those guys out of trouble. And so let's head now left. Let's head towards the castle and let's see what it takes to break these guys out. We can look through the keyhole and check them out, and the Norman guys are pacing up and down, waiting for something. Stop that confounded pacing. I'm bored. I don't care. Stop messing around. I'll tell you what, let's go outside and let's get a beer, shall we? That's a great idea. So they eventually agree on that, but they're broke. They haven't got any money to buy a beer, so that gives us some ideas. We have some money, just about, having paid off the debts. So if we can somehow get in there, maybe bribe these guys, maybe they'll go off and sling the hooks down the pub. Sling the hooks was a later pirating term to do with throwing hooks over. That's like an 18th century term, but whatever, they'll now go. And how do we get in? Well, hopefully there's a doorknob somewhere, and there it is, and we can now get in. But we've only got a limited time before they come back. If they come back, then that's game over and we'll be hanged. So now we're supposed to know what to do. We've got all this cash available, and I'm not sure whether I paid the guys debts off at the bar. Maybe this is another play of the game, but what we're going to do is give them enough to buy a grog each, so that's 2 pennies and 2 halfpennies, and that should be enough. Now that we put that money on the table for them to come back and take that money, and they'll say, look, God has provided, the Lord has faith in the Normans. That means we can take out the mugs again and we can get some more alcohol. Yay! So they now collect that, and that means the way is open for us to sneak in, and that means that they'll be left for a longer time now. Not forever, maybe 5 minutes, but just enough for us to get in and rescue the guys from the prison, which is the aim of this particular day. So that's the next problem. We're supposed to find a ladder, but I can't leave this room. So what would you do if you don't have a ladder and you can't leave this room? Well, first of all, you can throw the uniforms down towards them, and they'll hopefully collect those, the monks' uniforms, and they'll need those in order to escape. So I throw that down. Here you go, guys. And that will give them a disguise for when they get out, and hopefully if we tie all our belts together, then that means that we've got a rope and we can get out. So bless the dickens for that. And that means that we can get them all out. So this game has its pros and cons. I do like the atmosphere, and it's got a very unique atmosphere in this game. It kind of takes you to those days, and we kind of get a feel for it if there wasn't so much running around blindly going on, where we don't have a clue what we're supposed to be doing. So what we're supposed to be doing at this point, I suppose we could go through the priory, but I think the long play says that we're better off going through the bar, and that means, unfortunately, we're going to have to get something else right. We're going to have to answer some questions because the sheriff's in there, and if we get those wrong, it means we'll get arrested and hung. So lads, if you mingle in with the bar, and I'll try to stall the sheriff, we're going to take a quick look at those scores, because Amiga Joker gave this 62%, saying that it was just too hard and there were just too many dead ends in the game. The current Lemon Amiga score is 81%, Amiga Games magazine gave this 87%, and Dato magazine gave this an amazing 90%. So that means that this gets an average score of round about 8 out of 10. We are now virtually at the end of this play, and you can see some great graphics and some great animations if we know how to play it. And the sheriff wants a blessing from us. So we better make sure that we do that, and he believes us, and he isn't recognising us at the moment, which is a good job, and he even gives us a penny for doing that, which is also a good job because we're running out of cash. So you can see something going on the back wall, which I won't mention, But you can see now we've managed to smuggle the guys out of Nottingham. Tremendous graphics again, even though not quite as good as the PC. So thank you Johnny Smoesau for recommending that I cover this game, and it was one of the Robin Hood games that he wanted to cover, and I was never very good at the isometric Robin Hood game, and that again would require a long place to look through, but I was quite invested in this one and I found it very fun, and I'm quite happy to bring this out as a play guide in this Medieval Banquet series. And it was thanks to Johnny recommending these games that maybe this Medieval Banquet idea got started. I'm not quite sure, but this is going to continue for a few weeks as we look at some more medieval games in the series. Moving on, of course, we're up to 1193, so that means we're up to Defender of the Crown, which will continue in 1194, which is the game that we'll be playing next time in the next play guide. And so that's it for today, and hop, skip and jump have managed to return all the way back to the village, which means we've completed that section, and I'm presuming that there's 7 days, but we've only got less than 2,000 points out of the 7,000 available, so I'm not quite sure, but this game is trickier than you would imagine it would be, and you have to know how to play it in order to play it, which is kind of tricky, and it defeats itself. But just like Monkey Island, if you know how to play it, it can be fun, and it's a great game. So thank you once again, and I'll see you again in another one sometime soon.